The screen explodes with fire, steel, and nostalgia. Giant robots crash through cities while billions pour into box offices and toy aisles. For a moment, it feels like childhood again. But behind the spectacle of Transformers lies something far more powerful than any robot war. A decades-long system designed to weaponize imagination. It started with a simple promise: machines that could turn into cars, heroes that could turn into legends. But what Hasbro and Hollywood truly created was a psychological trap. One that transformed childhood wonder into lifelong consumption. Every reboot, every collectible, every explosion wasn't just entertainment. It was extraction. Not of oil or metal, but of memory. We thought we were buying toys. We were buying pieces of our past, repackaged and resold. Because Transformers was never just about good versus evil. It was about a far bigger battle. Corporations versus your childhood. They told us Transformers were more than meets the eye. They were right. They were selling nostalgia disguised as heroism, and we've been paying for it ever since. Long before American kids shouted, "Autobots, roll out!" the story began in Japan. In the late 1970s, a company called Takara was crafting small, intricate robots that could turn into cars, planes, and weapons. They weren't just toys. They were miniature reflections of Japan's obsession with precision, technology, and transformation. At the 1983 Tokyo Toy Fair, a group of Hasbro executives discovered these mechanical wonders. To them, it wasn't art. It was opportunity. They didn't just buy the toys. They bought the idea of transformation itself. Takara's Diaclone and Microman lines became the foundation of something new. Hasbro merged them, repainted them, and handed them to Marvel Comics, whose writers were tasked with one job: build a universe that would sell. In a few months, nameless robots gained identities, loyalties, and voices. Convoy became Optimus Prime. Megatron was born from thin air. A toy line became mythology. This was globalization disguised as creativity. Japanese engineering fused with American storytelling, all in service of capitalism. What Takara designed to spark imagination, Hasbro transformed into a psychological brand empire. A story that began in Japan ended up owning America's childhood. By 1984, Transformers wasn't just a toy line, it was a weaponized story. That same year, the US government quietly changed the rules. The FCC lifted restrictions on advertising directly to children. Overnight, Saturday morning television became a corporate gold rush. Hasbro and Marvel saw the opening and built the Transformers cartoon not as entertainment, but as a commercial you'd beg to keep watching. Each episode served a purpose: introduce a new character, push a new figure, retire the old ones when inventory ran out. Hero deaths weren't storytelling decisions, they were supply chain updates. And it worked. Kids absorbed not just the show's morality, but its marketing. Collect them all became a commandment. Optimus Prime wasn't just a leader. He was a purchase decision wrapped in virtue. For the first time in history, children weren't just watching stories, they were financing them. Every 22-minute episode was a sales funnel, training a generation to confuse emotional connection with consumption. What began as a cartoon became something far more profound. A blueprint for how corporations could bypass parents, infiltrate minds, and turn loyalty itself into a revenue stream. By 1986, Transformers had become more than a toy line. It was a behavioral experiment. Hasbro didn't just sell plastic robots. They sold emotion, loyalty, and identity. Every character came with a biography, a moral lesson, a place in the universe. Kids didn't just own toys, they joined a cause. Then came the Transformers, the movie shockwave. In one brutal scene, Hasbro killed off almost every beloved character, including Optimus Prime. It wasn't a creative decision, it was an inventory reset. Out with the old models, in with the new. The reaction was chaos. Children cried in theaters, parents complained, and toy sales skyrocketed. Because Hasbro had stumbled on something extraordinary. Emotional loss drives consumption. The pain of losing a hero created a need to restore the story, to buy the next generation of figures, to make the world right again. It was marketing turned psychological. The birth of corporate grief. Transformers taught kids that loyalty means never letting go, even when the product changes. And decades later, that same emotion keeps adults hunting eBay listings, still trying to resurrect the plastic gods of their childhood. 2 decades later, the Autobots returned, louder, faster, and far more profitable. In 2007, Michael Bay's Transformers reboot didn't just revive a franchise. It resurrected an entire generation's memories and turned them into box office gold. The explosions weren't random. They were emotional triggers, designed to reawaken childhood loyalty in adults now old enough to spend. Every crash of metal, every echo of Optimus Prime's voice, it all felt familiar. That was the point. Hasbro had learned that nostalgia wasn't just powerful, it was bankable. Toy aisles filled again. Collectors lined up for replicas of the figures they once broke as kids. The same stories, resold through the lens of cinematic spectacle. Hollywood and Hasbro weren't telling new tales. They were selling the illusion of permanence. That the things we loved as children had survived with us, when, in reality, they'd been carefully engineered to return when we were most nostalgic and financially capable. The transformation wasn't in the robots. It was in us. We'd evolved from children who played to adults who paid. And for Hasbro, that transformation was worth billions. Behind every toy, every episode, every explosion, there's a system. A perfectly synchronized machine built not to inspire play, but to guarantee profit. By the late 2000s, Hasbro wasn't just a toy company. It was an intellectual property empire. Every brand, G.I. Joe, Transformers, Power Rangers, My Little Pony, Monopoly, fed into a single pipeline. Toys became cartoons. Cartoons became films. Films sold more toys. This was the Hasbro feedback loop, a corporate ecosystem designed to recycle emotion. Every story connected to another, every universe cross-promoted. There was no ending, only sequels, reboots, and limited editions. Even Hollywood became part of the machine. Paramount didn't make Transformers movies to tell stories. They made them to sell Hasbro's next quarter. Scripts followed toy release schedules, action scenes followed marketing calendars. And, for consumers, the illusion was complete. It looked like choice. Autobots, Decepticons, reissues, collector editions. But it was all the same revenue stream, flowing back to one corporate core. The real genius of Transformers wasn't the design of the robots. It was the design of the system, a global supply chain of nostalgia, engineered to turn every childhood memory into recurring income. In the end, Transformers wasn't just a story about robots. It was a story about us. What began as playtime in the 1980s has become a multi-billion-dollar nostalgia machine. The toys that once fueled imagination now fuel shareholder returns. The heroes we once believed in, Optimus, Bumblebee, Starscream, have become avatars of corporate profit, endlessly resurrected to keep the cycle alive. As adults, we tell ourselves we're collecting, preserving a piece of who we were. But behind every boxed figure and Blu-ray steelbook is the same transaction. Emotion converted into currency. Hasbro doesn't need to create new childhoods anymore. It just needs to resell the ones we already lived. That's the hidden economics of nostalgia. A loop where the past isn't remembered, it's monetized. Where every reboot, every special edition, every limited run is a gentle reminder that even your memories have a price tag. They told us Transformers were more than meets the eye. And they were right. They were never just toys. They were the prototype for a future where even innocence can be franchised, because in the end, the transformation wasn't theirs. It was ours.